So in this episode, I'm going to talk about how to know the difference between making body-based decisions that are true versus mind-based decisions that are true. And this is illustrated by a question from a woman in the Claim program who's asked me this. Sometimes what feels good in the body is not always in line with what we know in our hearts and mind is good for us long term. How do we know when not to follow what feels good in the body when it seems that the advice that is given to us in the program is let the body lead, which is true? And then she says, for example, I keep breaking the boundary I have about being sexual with a man that I'm not in a relationship with. The reason I break it is because I feel this masculine voice within that boundary judging me and trying to control me. And I want to be present and enjoy my body with someone I trust and love, even though we're not in a partnership. But I also have a deep desire to save my sexual energy for someone who I can grow with and live together with someday. I really feel when I enforce this boundary and stop being sexual with this man, it's coming from a very heady masculine space. I'm allowing myself to follow what my body wants, but ultimately, the more I have sex with him in a non-judgmental way, the more I feel the truth, which is that this is really not satisfying as I think it is in the moment. Maybe I've answered my own question, but hopefully you can give some feedback or advice. So this last part of her question, she indeed has answered this question where she says, I'm allowing myself to follow what body wants, but ultimately, the more I have sex with him in a non-judgmental way, the more I feel the truth, which is that this is really not satisfying as I think it is in the moment. When I was thinking about answering her question, I also thought about, different situations where we have the same scenario where, quote unquote, I'm following my body. For example, in food cravings, I'm following my body when I crave junk food or chocolate or sex or drugs or whatever addiction, right? And that feels good in my body. So how do I listen to my body? Because then it feels like my body is leading me to wrong decisions. Obviously, I've had this in a sexual relationship with a man, and many women will actually resonate with the same scenarios where we say yes to something where we actually mean no because something else is going on underneath that issue. And same thing with me, it has been for a long time, which I discovered is about food. My body would crave chocolate, for example, or something sweet, but my mind says no, but I still go for it. So the answer to this whole dilemma, the metaphor that I can use here is think about your, let's say, windows of the car that are dirty. You haven't used the car for, many months or whatever. When the windows are dirty, you can't see. You can't see clearly. So for you to see clearly, you need to obviously spray some water or whatever, and then start cleaning the window with windshield wipers. Our body is always communicating to us. What I mean by when the window is dirty is when we haven't developed a relationship with our body. And by the way, in this post that my client posted, many women have commented and said, the more I did my embodiment practice, the more I listened to the body, and the more I made better decisions. That's how it works. And so this can happen with actually those who do have a relationship with their body. And it just takes a lot of time. It's a process. It doesn't happen in a day. When they say, for example, in emotional eating, listen to your body. Like I couldn't understand for the longest time, what does it mean to listen to my body? Well, it's actually listening to when you're hungry, because eating, you're supposed to eat when you're hungry, but we eat when we're not hungry, actually crave something because it's just a craving. And for me, it's emotional eating because either I'm bored or maybe it's a habit or it's there. So there's things undercurrent that are happening there, right? So the same things with sex, right? You have sex with a man when you don't actually really want it, where this man is not your ideal future partner, but you're still going for it. Because maybe it's just there, just like my vegan chocolate is in the fridge. And if it's not in the fridge, I kind of start to panic. And this is actually an addictive personality. I know because I smoked cigarettes for like 14 years. And then addiction then switched to sex with men, to sugar. And now the last remnants of that is the vegan chocolate, the healthiest version of it, right? So the same thing with a man, yeah? We're having sex with men that we actually don't want to be having because he's just there, sounds like with this client, right? Well, I know a little bit about their story. He's just there. He'll always be there. So why not? It's just easier. And it's so pleasant to be in his arms and everything. But the more I do it, and this, obviously we're working together with this woman, she's doing her embodiment practice, she realizes that it doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel good after it. So I ate that chocolate. In the process, it kind of feels good because I'm satisfying some sort of a craving. But then after that, it's like I feel either bloated or there's acne on my skin or whatever. You know what I mean? How do we clean the windshield wipers is by developing a relationship with your body through embodiment practices and through tools. Like I teach, for example, feminine flow, right? So all of my clients do their feminine flow every day, hopefully, and then we engage in different activities and in the practice in the Claim Group Coaching Program. If you're interested, by the way, in my whole approach, go to claim.com/training to sign up for the training and see the 4 steps to attracting great men, which embodiment is a huge step there. But back to this client. So the fact that she's asking this question is already such great awareness. It's like, oh, how do I listen to my body if my body is done? So in her case right now, the dirty window, the windshield wiper is just slowly starting to work. Because number one, she's asking this question. Number two, she's kind of answering by herself. But the more we do embodiment work, the more we feel into our yes, the more we feel into our no, the more we really sit with our feelings, the more this craving will actually go away. Because you're developing a relationship with yourself and you're choosing yourself rather than something that's just there, rather than that hit. Because the sex with this man is simply just a hit, right? It can be a nicotine hit, it can be a heroin hit, it can be a sugar hit, and it can be a sex thing. Because sex for us women, we connect with men. Well, we connect with ourselves and we connect with men. Sex is intimacy, and sex is something where we feel loved, we feel seen, especially if there's a man who you're really, really comfortable with, who creates a lot of space for you and everything. Of course, it feels good in the moment. Remember her question, she said long term, right? We know in our hearts and mind is good for long term. The question is literally about being in alignment. How do we get our body to align with what we know is true? That's why, for example, we can tell ourselves all kinds of affirmations about I am amazing, I am worthy of a great man, I'm worthy of a great relationship. And yet your body carries the codes, carries the beliefs, carries the codes that need to be excavated, seen for what they are, reframed, and then this work of embodiment needs to keep going. Because I can promise you, if you dedicate yourself to the practice, then amazing things will happen. The next time you will actually choose yourself and you will say no to something that's just there, that you know that long term it doesn't help. I'm hoping this is making sense. And if it is, please click on this next video where I explain how to develop this connection with your body a little bit more. I actually explain and then show you feminine flow practice. And if you're listening to this, obviously you can go and watch it and send me your questions. You can DM me on Instagram and I'll be able to answer more of these questions.